70% of all the lottery winners go broke. And I'm sure that you have heard of top athletes and rappers who have made millions during their primes but somehow end up going broke. All this to say that getting rich is important, but what is equally and sometimes even more important is how to stay rich. Welcome to another episode of Breakfast and Books, where I review a book and also give away breakfast to someone in need.
Yeah, so I've just bought a bunch of biscuits which will be pretty easy for them to eat and also like a tasty snack for them. I've got cream biscuits, but then if they're feeling healthy and want to balance it out, I've also got these oat cookies.
Look, biscuits, I had some extra.
In this video, I want to talk about two books. The first book is called The Psychology of Money, and the second book is called The Rich Dad Poor Dad. Both of them talk about how to make money, but even more importantly, the mindset that you need in order to keep the money that you make. The topic of personal finance is something that's very close to my heart. I mean, literally close to my heart. I'm sorry. And I am on the ultimate quest to become financially independent as early as possible. In school, we aren't really taught on how to make money. So the only way to go about it is taking things into our own hands. And I will share whatever I've learned with you guys so that we can learn and earn together. Do smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm so that 10 years from now, when we're all millionaires and someone comes up to you and asks you, how did you become so rich and how did you become a millionaire? You can always be like, you know what, 10 years ago, I watched this channel by this guy called Vivek and that's how I got here. Okay, coming to the key takeaways from the book, The Rich Dad Poor Dad. The most important thing that you need to know is the difference between an asset and a liability. In the most simple sense, an asset allows the owner to generate income, whereas on the other hand, a liability generates expenditure. And our objective in life should be to purchase as many assets as possible. And over time, those assets will make us money, which we will take and buy more assets. And that's why they usually say that the rich usually get richer and the poor usually get poorer. And that is because the rich person spent all his money on buying assets, whereas on the other hand, the rapper who went broke spent all his money buying fancy cars, which is basically a depreciating asset and over time a liability. But you might be wondering, Vivek, how do I start? In most cases, in order to buy an asset, we need money. And in order to get that money, we usually have to work at a job. And at least for me, that's where my whole investing journey began. But I also feel like I could have started earlier. You know, from the money that you get every time you visit your grandparents. And the reason why it is better to start as early as possible is because you don't have many responsibilities. It's not like your whole family is dependent on that money to pay the electricity bill or anything. The next thing that I want to talk about is the difference between being rich and being wealthy. Rich is basically how much money you have. A person with 100 rupees is richer than a person with 50, who is richer than a person with 10. But wealth, on the other hand, is how long that money lasts. If the person with 50 rupees in his hand is able to survive for a longer period of time than the person with 100, he is wealthier. In that definition, our objective should be to become wealthy instead of rich. Just a quick example. If I had 300 rupees in my hand, I could go to that Starbucks over there one time. Basically from tomorrow on, I couldn't drink coffee. And if I take that exact 300 bucks and go to that cafe over there, I could drink coffee for 3 days. And instead of going to that Starbucks, if I go to that Indian coffee house over there, where the coffee is 10 rupees, I could have coffee for an entire month. What all that means is that it's not the amount of money that you have, but it comes down to how well you can manage what you have. A quote from this book goes like this: building wealth has got very little to do with your level of income and your return on investment, but it has a lot to do with your savings rate. And just to give you another example, there's one last place that I want to take you. And this place is called UB City, basically because the company owns the whole area. UB stands for United Brewery, and this company was headed by Vijay Mallya. And he was obviously a billionaire, but his extravagant lifestyle got in the way, and even $1 billion weren't enough.
I'm not sure if you can see that, but he literally built a mansion over his already existing mansion.
And as of right now is filing for bankruptcy. I guess that just goes to show you, irrespective of how much money you have or make, it's how much you save that actually matters. That just gives a normal person like me a lot of hope, because if I save and keep saving, I will end up being more wealthier than a person who had $1 billion and lost it all. And that's also another reason why I really like coming here. You know, it just gives you motivation to like work hard, and like because you see all these fancy posh things that you can't really afford, and you know, you're like, one day I'm going to make it. The next thing that I learned is that you don't have to be super smart in order to get rich. And again, that gives a normal person like me hope. If being rich and being smart were related, the rich people would consist of mathematicians, scientists, and physicists. But in reality, that's not entirely true. Even if we are super smart and are really good with numbers and all, we need to have financial literacy, which again is something that we have not been taught in school. And in the book The Rich Dad Poor Dad, the poor dad, though he was a brilliant mathematician and brilliant in his own field, he lacked financial literacy, is what led to his bankruptcy in the end, because he didn't know the difference between spending money on assets compared to liabilities. And by the time he retired, he already had so many loans that he had to repay and ended up going broke. And the last thing that I want to talk about is the power of compounding. If I ask you, what is 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8? You can probably very easily answer saying that it's 40. 40, yeah, it's 40. Yeah, pretty easy, right? But at the same time, if I ask you, what is 8 into 8 into 8 into 8 into 8 into 8? What is it? What is it? Don't use a calculator. What is it? I don't know. I actually don't know. The answer to that is 32,768. And compare that to 40. You see the difference. One quote about compounding that I read from this book stuck with me. And it goes like this. The only rule of compounding is don't interrupt it. The only rule of compounding is don't interrupt it. No matter what, the only rule of compounding is don't interrupt it. Let's just take a quick example where 8 rupees compounds on itself year on year. If a person continues that compounding for 4 years, that 8 rupees will turn into 4096. And that same person with that same 8 rupees, if he lets his money compound for 5 years instead of 4, he will end up with 32,768. Just that 1 year alone converted that 4096 to 32,768. And honestly, that's something that's just mind-blowing. Like, and that again just goes to show you the power of compounding. I'm getting up close and intimate with the camera to tell you this. The only rule of compounding is don't interrupt it. Don't do it. And I'm also trying to apply this principle to other aspects of life as well, including this YouTube channel, where I'm posting one video every week no matter what. Because in the long run, persistence and consistency always pays off. Because of the principle of compounding, and the only rule of compounding is don't interrupt it. That's it for now. And hope you liked watching this video as much as I did making it. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. Bye. UB stands for United Brewery. No, doggo, I'm not here to play. Hi, doggo. Let me film my YouTube video, doggo. Have company. No, I'm not here to play. Bye. I don't know, for some reason my jaw hurts today. And I also need to get a haircut. It's grown. But all the barber shops are closed because of lockdown. What is this? Behind the scenes. Yeah, that's it. Bye. See you next week.